Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the DucksNPucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we are back in the new year of 2023 to talk about the Anaheim Ducks. Plenty of things to cover on the show. We saw the Ducks beat the Golden Knights and the Dallas Stars, and they also had a couple questionable losses too. So we'll get to all that action. We'll talk about the goalie situation again, a little bit more trade talk as well, and some league news in addition to that. So plenty of stuff to get to. But before we do that, I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll kind of get caught up on what's been going on in the last week or so. Eddie, did you have a good Christmas and a good New Year's?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Christmas was fine. I'm not a big Christmas person, so just kind of like whatever. I got to see family, and the best thing about it was my brother on Christmas Eve. He just texted me randomly like, "Hey, what are you doing? I'm coming down." I'm like, all right, cool. So I got to hang out with my big brother, and I'm real close to him, so we got to just throw back a couple 12 packs, and it was fun. So that was cool. New Year's Eve, I wasn't planning to do anything, and family hit me up. They were down the street for me, literally I want to say 15 miles away or less. I went to go hang out with them, and my best friend shows up. So it kind of worked out perfectly, and had my birthday that just passed too. I got my official start date for my new job, so that's the thing I'm most excited about. So yeah, I can't complain. It was good to ring in the new year. Been hitting the gym a lot since November, so I think I hit the gym. It was 18 times in December, which is not my record. But yeah, I'm just real motivated for the new year, the whole new job, my continued training success, and the family and friends, you in my life, Mike. I'm grateful and I'm thankful. So happy New Year, everybody, and hope you guys had a Merry Christmas too.
Yeah, man, and happy birthday, and you got the new job and everything. So 2023 is looking up. Fantastic, man. For me on Christmas, just hung out with family, had them over, kind of just the usual, nothing too crazy, but New Year's was a lot different for me this year, and kind of talk about, the Winter Classic here for a little bit. I hadn't been to one other than the Ducks-Kings game, back in LA, which, I mean, it's not a Winter Classic, and obviously there's no snow and it's not very cold, but for that New Year's weekend, I ended up, going to Boston, kind of planned this out because it was my other team that I like, Pittsburgh, and yes, they lost to Boston in this game, 2-1, but it was very fun. I had some things on my bucket list. I had never been to Boston, never been to Fenway Park, never been to Winter Classic, so I kind of knocked off a hat trick of bucket list items there, but I loved it. I mean, Boston was a great city. Everybody was nice and friendly. We took a tour of the harbor there. We went to the Cheers bar, which was cool. Just did a few things like that leading up to the game. And then all day on the second there, we went to the game, which was a blast. Mainly, I would say Bruins fans, maybe like 60-40 or, maybe 66-33, whatever, kind of 2-1 mix of fans there, though. But it was good. The game was fun. A lot of, just a good time. It started out kind of slow, no scoring in the first period, but Penguins scored first in the second, and then Boston answered with a couple goals in the third. Penguins scored at the very, very end, but time had expired, which I wish that would have happened because I wanted more hockey, but I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it if anybody ever wants to go. It was only 50 degrees, so it was not terrible, being a Californian, so I highly recommend it. If you ever get a chance to go, and just wherever, I mean, if you want to check it out and see, I loved it. I thought it was great. I just really hope that the Ducks will have one in the future, Eddie. I know we've talked about before. I'd like to see one at Angel Stadium, even though I know it's not really a Winter Classic, but I'm all for, another outdoor game out here in California.
Oh, hell yeah, definitely. And the Winter Classic is on my bucket list to do, so I definitely want to do that. Hopefully next year I'll be able to do that. I think I've been to one stadium. I went to the Stadium Series outdoor game against the Avalanche and the Red Wings, and that was a fun experience. It was a blast from start to finish. When I flew back over there and flew back, I couldn't. It sucks that the Avs lost both games, the alumni game and then the regular game, but it was just a fun experience. It was great. to watch. It's something that you have to experience as a fan. If you're a fan, you haven't done it. I don't care if you don't like certain teams. If you can, just do it. You'll love it as a hockey fan. So, Mike, I'm glad that you got to experience that. You and your wife looked like you had a great time, and I'm glad you guys did. Hopefully, I can get that check box and hit the Winter Classic next year or a year before, after that, or maybe if the Ducks start shooting up and being good and get that to elite status and start pissing off East Coast teams, they can get a Winter Classic. So, I just want the Ducks to piss off some more East Coast teams. Boston, Pittsburgh seem to be, or Chicago seem to be favorites of getting all those Winter Classic outdoor games. So hopefully the Ducks can really piss off and create a rivalry, and Ducks can get like a Winter Classic sometime.
Yeah, that was one thing I was looking up too. They announced at the game that I believe it was Boston's like 5th outdoor game, and I was just like, oh my gosh, man! Like really, these teams. I mean, I was happy to go because I like the Penguins too, and I don't get to see them much, other than when they come to Anaheim and play the Ducks. So I like to see that. I got to see Rickard Rakell, Hampus Lindholm on Boston, right? Had a couple former Ducks out there, able to watch, and that was fun. But yeah, a lot of these teams, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Boston, these teams get these games over and over again. Even the Kings have had a handful, and I think when I was looking at it, it was only like 13 or 14 teams in the league have been part of the Winter Classic. And I know we've had these Stadium Series games like the one you went to, Eddie, and obviously, the Ducks Kings way back when. But I wish that they would at least expand it a little bit more, even if it's like, hey, the Ducks have to go to Boston to play. You know what I mean? Or the Kings or whoever.
You know what? I have a good idea, and I think someone talked about it before. What about a neutral location? You can bring to a Ducks and Kings game and just give them just a neutral location, Lake Arrowhead or somewhere that's colder in California. I don't know, Big Bear, if it's big enough over there that has a rink or built or something. You can have a neutral location. Look what they did with the Avalanche. The Avalanche and the Red Wings played in Lake Tahoe, I believe it was, or Lake Arrowhead, like some lake over there. They played in that outdoor game, and I think it was a good success over there. I mean, yeah, the ice was kind of bad, but they could kind of make something work in a neutral location and just try it. Like, the NHL wants to expand. They want new fans, and they want to do something. Well, put hockey somewhere that doesn't have traditional hockey, doesn't have a pro team, and see what happens. You gain new fans. Hey, you take a loss. Oh, well. If not, like, you get a gain, you gain new fans, but trying to do something different. Bring some new teams into it. I'm pretty sure fans are just tired of seeing the same teams over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they're partially planning next season, right? You got Seattle and Vegas in the Winter Classic. Vegas has already been in one, obviously, and now Seattle is. So at least you have one new team, an expansion team. But I'm with you. I'd like to see, like, 2 completely new teams. And if they have to go to a neutral location, that's fine, too. Just mix it up. I mean, I was fortunate, because I like the Penguins. I'd never been to Fenway, so I wanted to check it out. It was all great experience. The only thing I will say, too, for people that have never been to an outdoor game or a Winter Classic type game, is that if you're going to buy tickets, don't buy tickets in the infield. You're not going to see a whole lot because you're going to be sitting down by the dugout or first or third base. The rink's a little bit away from you, and you're not going to see a lot of action. It's not like buying the bottom bowl seats and, you're seeing players crash up against the glass and everything. So, like for us, we bought seats high up in right field, third base, and we were able to see the rink like dead on, almost at center ice. So that worked out great to see. Could see all the action and everything. So that's just one tidbit I would suggest to anybody is if you go to those games, try to buy the seats that are higher up because you get a better view of the whole rink, Eddie.
Oh yeah, definitely. I had like perfect seats. We had these seats that weren't like next to anyone, and I went with 2 of my army buddies that became like my good friends, and then she invited some 2 other. We had a really good group of people I knew from Colorado, but our seats were. It's hard to explain. We had like our own little pillar by ourselves and that whole area, and we got to see like perfectly. Yeah, we're up there, and then the best thing about it is right behind us were 2 restrooms and a full bar. Like, we just had to just turn around, and it's right there. I forgot what it's called. It was at Coors Field, but it was great. I had a good time. It was just, like, the best experience I could ever have. The staff at Coors Field were awesome. Those people were cool. Talking to a lot of them, talking to security. They're giving me history about the Rockies. They had a few of the baseball players there, too. They were few of the players, they were at some bar, former players, and they were talking to me. I was talking to them. I had no idea who the hell they were. And then the bartender mentions too, like, hey, well, they play for the Rockies. I'm like, the baseball team. I had no idea who the hell they were. I was probably inebriated, but still, I don't really follow baseball or other sports like that. But yeah, it was probably one of the best experiences I had in my life going to a hockey game, and definitely suggest it. And I definitely wanted that Winter Classic. And yeah, in Vegas and Seattle, who knows if I get the time off work now, a new job, so I gotta see come next year. But yeah, that'd be something I would want to do. Fly up to Seattle, go over there. I have a friend that's stationed over there. So I have good company over there, so why not get that experience?
Yeah, I highly recommend it to anybody, and even just going to Boston in general. All the people there were super nice. Same thing like you talked about. The staff at the game was nice. Even the fans, like I was kind of worried. I'm like, if I'm wearing Penguin stuff, am I gonna get my butt kicked? But no, they were cool. Everybody was great. Food was awesome. To check out there, we had Italian sausage, which was really good. Went to different bars and restaurants and just tried different things, hamburgers and pizza, clam chowder, love the accent. We had some beer, so it was a good time overall, Eddie. I highly recommend it.
Hey, did you go rent a car over there?
Yeah, exactly. It's just funny, the accents. But yeah, no, it's just a great time. So highly recommend it. So.
Okay, question, Mike. How much were the beers over there?
At the game, I'm trying to remember. I think, man, I know I was thinking about this because I was laughing thinking about you and I when my wife and I got them. I want to say it was close to the same price. I want to say it was, if not maybe $1 or $2 less. I mean, it was very close. So it wasn't much of a difference, sadly.
Okay, that's the most important question. So, what kind of beer did you drink over there? Do they have different beer over there? Or? I've never been, so
a lot of Sam Adams. Go figure.
So, hell yeah! Did they have a Sam Adams? My favorite beer is called the Cold Snap. Cold Snap is my favorite beer ever. That's top favorite beer. I love their cherry wheat. That was the last beer I drank before I went into the Army. A great beer too, so I'm a big Sam Adams fan.
Yeah, they had a lot of that. They had Truly's at the game too, which was funny. But all the bars and restaurants, they had all kinds of stuff. I was even doing some Irish coffees in there too, because it was a little chilly out on the harbor, so I had to warm up a little bit. A little Bailey's in there, so it was good. It was fun time. I highly recommend it. I'd like to go back just to check stuff out because we just kind of did sightseeing for the 2 days we were there, real brief. But
yeah, I think you saw like an Eddie Hotel too over there, or apartment building.
Yeah, yeah, we were on the harbor cruise, and I sent you this photo of. I guess apparently a lot of the harbor there is man-made land. I didn't know this, but that's what our cruise ship director guy was telling us, and he didn't know what it was about, but came up to this building and it had your name on it with a big banner. So I took a photo and sent it to you. I'm like, hey, bro, either they're big fans of you out here, or do you own a building and I don't know about it?
Oh man, yeah. Well, you know what? I'm glad you had a good time, and it sounds like a good experience. It's firing me up to try to make next year's games. It's just to experience a Winter Classic. That'd be cool. Hopefully, in the near future, or the soon future, or some kind of future, the Ducks will get something like that, and the league will start expanding. Or you just have two different teams that never even tried it. It doesn't have to be a traditional. You just have something different. This league needs to start expanding. They said they need to start bringing new fans. They need to start making this game more accessible to fans too. So that kind of frustrates me too about how this game's not that accessible. You have to jump through hoops to find a game. I ended up bar hopping last week and a half, being a degenerate, drinking my ass off, and all the bars I go to, the games are on. I'm trying to find the game. It's they don't. It's not really aired. It's okay, there's no other really sports on. I want to watch hockey and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not gonna go on the rant and that. I know I rant every podcast about that, so I'll just end it at that. But yeah, well, hopefully next year I'll be there and it'll be fun.
Yeah, for anybody that hasn't gone, I highly recommend it. So check it out. Even Boston was a great city. A lot of fun time. So with that, just remind you guys that this is the Old City Sports Network podcast. And we've got a bunch of sponsors on there. I'll get to some of them on here. If I don't, they're in the comments section. But one of them we talked about was Righteous Felon. Promo code OCSN for 15% off if you want to try some beef jerky. So check it out. Now, with that, let's get into the Ducks. We actually had some good wins in this last week or so, and then some bad losses. So, some games to cover real quick. We did see John Gibson come back, and he's played in every game, which Eddie and I will talk a little bit about that when we talk about the team segment. But let's talk about the first game they came back with Gibson after the New Year and whatnot. Leading up to it. They played the Vegas Knights, and Gibson was in net. The Ducks actually took a lead, a couple goals by Henrique. They also got Vakanainen back, who was sick. And the Ducks jumped out to a 2-0 lead. They ended up giving it up and had to go to shootout and pulled out a win. But I was surprised by this game, Eddie. I really wasn't sure what to expect with Gibson back in net. And then, the Ducks have just had a hard time playing Vegas traditionally, but the Ducks were able to pull this one out and win despite giving up 51 shots on net.
Oh, I know. You know what? I actually picked up Gibson on a different fantasy hockey league. I just had a feeling he was just gonna take a lot of shots and hopefully get a win. I was hoping just like a 1-0 win or 0-1 loss for the Ducks just to get my fantasy points, but Ducks played well. It's good they beat the Knights too, closer to New Year's Eve. I know it's kind of special to you, Mike, when you went to that game a few years ago. So I was glad the Ducks finally got a win on that one. And I'm kind of mad about Ducks still getting wins because I want them just to kind of tank and get that first overall pick for the first time in franchise history.
Yeah, I know. It seems like people are split on that, and the Ducks actually pull out a win against a team you thought that they were going to lose, but they pulled it out. I did like the shootout goals by Zegras and Terry. It just seems like Zegras is automatic with the way he's so shifty.
The same thing he does, and goalies know it, and he's just so fast, like holy hell.
Yeah, he just and then he's like, I don't really pick a spot. I just go back and forth, and then he just pulls the trigger. And I mean, it almost always works. So hey, go with what works. So I mean, if you're happy the way that you want the Ducks to play better and win games, then this was a game for you. Other than giving up all the shots, but in terms of trying to tank for Bernard, then this wasn't the game for you. So, but it was followed up by 2 games that if you were for Bernard, you were happy. So right before New Year's, the Ducks played the Predators. Our early game, a 2:00 game, again Gibson in net. Ducks got down early in this one, 1-0. They actually tied it up and made it 1-1, but then it was pretty much all Nashville after that. They got a couple goals in the second period to make it 3-1, and then they really pulled away in the third period with 3 more goals. Kind of later on, I mean, it was 3-1 early in the third, so it wasn't a complete blowout right away, but then it ended up being a blowout. Ducks had a lot of problems clearing pucks out of the net in this game. A couple chances where they had chances to clear out the puck, and then they just didn't do it. So this one was a rough one, Eddie, especially the way ending the calendar year.
Oh yeah, that was tough. Like I don't know what the Ducks were pre-gaming early for the New Year's Eve, but to drop a game like that. You know what's funny too, because Gibson was named the 3rd star of the game too after giving up 6 goals. So it's like, I guess they knew he played his ass off, and the team just didn't show up. And I can't stand that. Like, I don't know. I get upset when the Ducks lose, but then I want them to lose. I'm kind of in a mixed feeling. So I want them to be that first overall pick. But a team like the Predators and their fans after that playoff thing. This is one of the teams I want them to beat. It just sucked that they got blown out and they couldn't beat this team to end the new year. Yeah,
and the thing I didn't like either when I was watching, I didn't like that last goal by Niederreiter. With like 13 seconds left, like they were already up 5-1. It's like, you guys really gonna pressure and go score another goal? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like when a team's blowing out another team and then like in the final minute they're like legit trying to go down there and score. It's like, why don't you just hold the puck behind your net, run out the clock, or skate around, play keep away, whatever. I don't know. That just rubbed me wrong at the end. I just didn't like that, Eddie.
Yeah, see, I have mixed feelings about that because I feel that that's more condescending, especially like when I played competitive, when I played beer league and stuff like that. When I'm getting blown out and I see teams just kind of like holding the puck and playing that pisses me off. It makes me want to take runs at people. It makes me want to hurt someone. Just, you know what? If you're gonna beat us, especially in like beer league, rec league, there's like a 10-goal mercy rule, and if I see teams just kind of holding the puck, putting it behind their net, making excessive passes, and not just ending the game, it just infuriates me. It just kind of insults, me as an athlete, and it just, like I said, it's condescending or something like that. So I just go and I'll take runs and stuff like that. So I had no problem with them just doing that 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, 9-1 if you want to do that. Just go ahead and just play the game how it's supposed to play. The exception with that is I remember when the Ducks a long time ago were beating the shit out of Vancouver, and Stoney scored that goal. It was like 8-1, 9-1 or something, 9-0, and Stoney didn't score. So I can respect players for doing that. They score a goal, having that much of a lead, and they don't celebrate. That just shows the class of them. I think one of the Ducks prospects did that too in one of the games when USA. No, I'm sorry. I want to say it was Canada was beating the crap out of a team, like 8 to something, and he scored a goal. He didn't celebrate. He didn't go high five at the bench. He just skated back to the bench, and that was it. That's a real classy move, and that's what you're supposed to do. Just be humble about it and have some class.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Definitely. If you're gonna get that goal, and then just kind of be like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, so they didn't end the calendar year well, and then they didn't start the 2023 year well. They played the Flyers. Gibson again in net. They went with our favorite 11-7 lineup, or some people are calling it the 7-11 lineup now, so I laugh at that. But the Flyers got a couple early goals in this. The Ducks just they didn't play this game horribly, but they just weren't in it, and they just couldn't rebound. I mean, Gibson, there was the second goal in the game he gave up was kind of rough. He probably would have wanted to have that one back. The Ducks had some post shots in this one. I thought, I don't know. Looking at it, it didn't overall look terrible. Obviously the final score is 4-1, but they had some chances to get some goals in this game. They couldn't get it done, but I don't know. To me, it's like you're playing the Flyers, though. It's like you beat the Knights 3-2 in a shootout, but then you lose 4-1 to the Flyers, who the Flyers have had a rough year. I mean, I know they've won a couple more games recently, but I don't know. I was a little disappointed in this game. Especially after the Predator game. I thought they played a little bit better, but I didn't think they would lose 4-1. But I also don't like that 7-11 lineup either, Eddie.
Oh yeah, whoever says 7-11, that's funny as hell. I really want the Ducks to start this with the win. It's on my birthday. I want to see that, but of course they didn't, and they get that loss. I was supposed to beat this game, covering this game with the whole media credentials and stuff like that, but apparently the Ducks they don't like to expand. They don't like to let other people kind of promote them. I don't know what's up with that. They just have some issues. They need some different blood in their organization if they want to expand to different fan bases and stuff like that. But you know what? That's all I'll say about that. But we'll move on to the next game, because the Flyers things pissed me off too, Mike. Like I resent things from the past too. I still remember this game from like 3 or 4 years ago when I had to cover it at 10 in the morning. Oh yeah,
on a Saturday.
And I was sick as hell. Like I had the flu or something, and I still got it to cover because I told you, like when I say I'm gonna do something, I do it. And they got blown out. I was so pissed off. So I resent the Flyers just for that reason.
Yeah, if Jesse's listening, sorry, Jesse. Jesse's the one that runs Old City Sports Network. If you don't,
I still love you, Jesse, but sorry.
Yeah, you're a great guy. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, the Ducks got off to a bad foot there, and then they keep continuing this homestand. Then they had Dallas, so you think, oh man, Dallas is going to come in. Dallas is red hot. One of the best teams in the league right now. And the Ducks end up beating Dallas and shutting them out 2-0. I'm like, what the hell happened in this game? Like, where did this come from? But this one was kind of a surprise, though, because they split up Terry and Zegras, which I wasn't happy about. And yes, the Ducks got a couple goals in the beginning and won, but this game wasn't like they dominated. It was like they played really well in the first period. Then they just kind of sat on the lead, which almost always cost them. But they rode Gibson in this one. And he had the 35 save shutout, and the Ducks were able to, buckle down. Dallas had 4 power plays. They capped them off the board. The Ducks scored on their 1 power play, and it was a shocker, Eddie, but they were able to pull this one out and win 2-0.
Yeah, the first game the Stars shut out the Ducks 5-0. The second game the Ducks shut out the Stars 2-0. But I think you're overlooking one thing about Trevor Zegras. I think no one really cares about this 2-0 win, but that Bobby Ryan movie stole Man, we should have reached out to Bobby Ryan and tried to get him on the show, or just try to get just have him send us a recording of what he thought about that play, because that was the funniest thing. He got a penalty for that too. It was just the funniest thing, him stealing someone else's stick. Oh man, that was probably the highlight of the game, and no one's gonna remember the Ducks winning and shutting out the Dallas Stars 2-0. They're gonna remember Trevor Ziegler stealing someone's stick.
Yeah, that was funny, and I immediately thought of the Bobby Ryan play with Koivu's stick and all that, and it cracked me up because I saw some people too. They were wondering, like, well, how come Zegras' goal, or well, not, he didn't get a goal in this one, sorry, but he stole a stick. But why was there a penalty in that play? And then when Bobby Ryan scored and got his goal, why that counted? Well, the thing is, there was no rule for this a while back. They added it a few years ago, so now you can't grab an opponent's stick and go skate around and try and score with it. So kind of a weird thing, because when I saw it happen, I didn't even really realize, to be honest, that a rule had been made. I didn't know. I mean, there's so many damn rules in the league. I mean, I try to do my best. I don't know all of them 100%. If I said I did, I'd be a liar, and I don't. But I know a lot of them. But I was just surprised. And I saw them call a penalty. I'm like, what are they calling a penalty for? And then they said that, and then they went into the whole thing about how they added that rule, a couple seasons after the Bobby Ryan goal. But yeah, it reminded me of that. It cracked me up, and that's why I put that post on Twitter that Bobby Ryan would approve of Zegras' tactics there. I mean, that was funny. That did take me back several years, Eddie.
Oh yeah, and then I saw other people, or someone. I'm not gonna name the name, but someone affiliated with some certain organization posted too after you posted it, which they usually do. But yeah, that was funny as hell. That's a stupid rule. I guess Zegras was different because he actually just ripped it out of his hand. Bobby Ryan's, he just picked up a stick thinking it was his, but it wasn't. But it would have been funny if Zegras would have scored, which wouldn't have counted because it was a penalty. But yeah, there's going to be new penalties as soon these players are going to freaking fart one day. It's going to be a penalty, the way this league is going.
Oh man.
No, it's just so I'll say it. It's pussified. The whole league, it's just trending downward. It's so sad to see stupid penalties like that. It's part of the game, and yeah, I get it. Zegras' thing was excessive. Him actually yanking the stick out of someone's hand, but now it's a penalty if you pick up a stick that's not yours. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. Not a new rule. So,
hey, you know what? I told you, dude. I have 2 or 3 more years left of being a hockey fan. And I'm going to be following badminton.
Oh, man, look out. All right. We'll kind of get into what's going on with the Ducks lately. We'll talk about some stuff going on. Like I said, don't forget we're part of the Old City Sports Network. Another sponsor is Norse Beards. Check them out for all your grooming needs. OCS for 25% off all their beard care products. So check them out, norsebeards.com. All right, so talking about the Ducks and what's been going on lately. We talked about kind of this goalie controversy last show, which was kind of blown up by a lot of people and talking about it. And now it's kind of disappeared because you had Dostal and Eriksson Ek both get sent back to San Diego. And then you had Gibson, obviously, and then Stolars, of course, both return. But now the question becomes, are the Ducks playing Gibson too much? And that's kind of my issue here is they brought him back. Yes, he played great in the game against the Knights. The Ducks got the win. Then you see him play in the Predators game and the Flyer game, losing those games badly. And then obviously he plays a great game against Dallas. But I don't know. I just don't like seeing him playing every game in and out. I mean, I think Stolar should be out there. To me, maybe a 60-40 split. It doesn't necessarily have to be 50-50. That would be okay too. But I don't know. I mean, unless they brought Stolar's back and he's not really 100%, which that wouldn't make sense though. They don't usually do that. So that's just my issue with what's been going on there, Eddie. I'm glad Gibson's back, but I think you should play Stolar's a little bit more in the mix.
Oh, definitely. And Stolar's showcase him more. Put him some more games because trade deadline's going to come up. And you have to make a trade. There's no way you're not going to trade Stolar. Are you really going to keep him? He's not going to re-sign with the Ducks. Does he really want to re-sign to be a glorified backup and he's not getting games at all? Let his value go up. Put him in some games. Put some better defense in front of him, or just have the boy. You know what? Play freaking 8 defenders. I guess two could stand right behind him or something, or in front of him. But get him some more games to just kind of showcase him to other teams. So come trade deadline, he has some value to him. You can at least get something. I don't see Stolarz like wanting to return to the Ducks and kind of be that like. He's probably like a one. Do you have that 1B or 1A, 1B? He's a 1C goalie. He's not playing enough games at all. It was cool though that Dolars Dostal made a he made a big statement. His first game back at the AHL, he had a shutout for San Diego, so that was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Helping the goals there, and the goals ended their losing streak. They had those bazillion games in a row, and now they've actually won a couple games. So thank God. But yeah, I'm with you too. And we'll talk a little bit about some trade stuff a little bit later in the show. As we got a lot of fan questions too from you guys about the goalies as well, so we'll dive into that. Another thing that's been going on is the special teams play with the Ducks. It's been kind of interesting. The power play was not good against Vegas, Nashville, and Philly. They went 0 for 11. They then got the 1 goal against Dallas on there. So the power play has been kind of, it's done better, obviously, than it did in the beginning of the season, but it's kind of gone down a little bit. There were some games in here where the second power play unit was played. First, I didn't like that. I know when Silverberg scored against the Flames on that power play on the second unit, the Dallas got them out there more, but I don't agree with that. I think you got to keep that first line unit out there on the power play. So we have to monitor that and see how it goes. I do like what's going on with Zegras finding McTavish at the side of the net on the power play, and you still have Henrique and Terry in the middle there trying to jam pucks in and whatnot. So I like what I'm seeing there. The penalty kill has gotten better. They've been stopping a lot more of the opponent's power plays, which has been good because the penalty kill was atrocious in the beginning. It's still not great, but it's now in the 71% efficiency where it was like in the low 60s most of the season. So special teams, I like what I'm seeing. I think that first power play unit needs to be out there more, Eddie, when we've got the man advantage.
Yeah, it's just special teams still. It's just, yes, it's improvement, but it's still atrocious, like you said. It's still terrible. But you know what? What are we gonna do? We have to set up for the future. Just like what's that Batman quote from that movie? Like the dark is always dawnest before the dawn, or whatever quote. I'm not like saying it backwards, but it's just like I still have faith in the future, and my whole reasoning for the Ducks just to drop all these games and not like I guess not tank, but just not play to their best so they can get potentially get that first overall pick. It's a whole lottery draft, and not saying Bedard's going to come in if we do get him. It's going to change the whole dynamic, and the Ducks are just going to do a 180 and be an elite team. It's not going to be like that. It's still going to take a process, a rebuilding process, but I just still want the plan of it. Special teams will be an improvement. I still want some kind of improvement in that, but then again, why improve it right now? I don't think this coaching staff comes back next season, to be honest. I think it's done after this. It's going to kind of a rebuild the coaching staff too and start from scratch. How our GM wants to run that. Now, if our coaching staff comes back next season, it's a big surprise to me. Maybe he wants to tank more. There's a player at the following draft I don't know about. It's going to be a generational talent that they want to try to get. But as right now, I just kind of ride with it, I guess.
Yeah, that was one question we had, too, from Brian Palumbo. He said, can we get a new head coach? And obviously a lot of you have asked that, and I'm with you, too. I think, it's going to be something that's going to happen, come the end of the season. That's what it sounds like as of now. I mean, I just, the Ducks still have bad losses and stuff like that, but, I mean, I'd be surprised if there aren't some changes with not just him, but other coaching staff as well. But, yeah, right now I don't see that happening. I see the Ducks keep on going the way that they're doing, and then we'll see what happens at the trade deadline. That was another question too. We had hey, it's Chris asked, what Eakins is doing well when he hasn't changed things up, and I mean, it's tough. I mean, I think he did split Terry and Zegras in the last game against Dallas, and it didn't work overall. I mean, they won the game, but the offense wasn't there necessarily. I mean, it's just keep those guys together, I would think, or. The other thing is, if you're going to split Terry and Zegras, then split Strome and Vetrano. Like, they don't have those two in line. Like, split those up, throw in Henrique in there and McTavish, and mix it up that way if you're going to do it. And like we said in the goalie situation, play Gibson less. I don't know. I just don't see a lot going well other than when he's kept Terry and Zegras together, and then when he's put that first power play unit together. I think that's been good. But other than that, I mean, it's tough. I mean, I know he's a player's coach and he's a good dude and he's motivational, but in terms of the tactics on the ice, I don't know. I just don't see a lot of positives that he's done that's going to make this team really progress forward come next season, Eddie.
No, yeah, same here. Like, he's done a fantastic job, and he's a great players coach to develop our players. But as far as an NHL coach, this is from Edmonton to this, and he was in Edmonton too. He had a pretty good roster over there, and he still couldn't get it done. I just think it's time for him to move on. I would love for him to take some kind of player development role, or if he wants to digress and be the head coach of the goals again, and just have that permanent role if he loves Southern California that much. But I know it's hard for coaches, the head coaches of the NHL, to kind of like just drop back down and be kind of quote unquote demoted. But it's a big change. I think the whole coaching staff, like everything needs to change for Anaheim next season. You have foundation already set, laid down. You have a franchise player. You have a superstar. And Terry, the franchise player, being Zegras. Drysdale, unfortunately, he's hurt, but he's that defenseman of the future. You have some assets there that you can build from. You saw Dostal, how he played. He can be more than a capable backup next season, if not a starter. So, we have some hope. We have to just start sanding down those edges and making them a little smoother. And like I said, I have a really high hopes for this team in the future. It's just going to take some time. You can't rush anything. Like I said, I mentioned before in numerous podcasts, you can't do what New Jersey did and try to accelerate your rebuild, because it didn't work out how it worked. New Jersey had some good times this season. They were at one point the number 2 overall in the league. They've been digressing a little bit, but they still have a solid team, and they built that foundation after they failed that rebuild. So we have to just be patient and be good fans and know that, not really hope for the best, because the best is coming. So just be there and be ready to cheer our boys on.
Yeah, and one of those players you mentioned too, Troy Terry, he was just named an All-Star again. So, he's been leading the team with goals. He's actually tied with Henrique. They both have 12 goals, but he's got the most points at 32. So that's one of the guys that, you talk about the Ducks got to build around him. You mentioned Zegras. You mentioned McTavish. Gibson, Dostal. I mean, these are the guys that you got to, surround the team around and go forward. I did think it was cool what the Ducks did with Troy Terry. They had Troy Aikman on a video and kind of surprised Terry with all the guys and have that announcement, because, his parents named him after Troy Aikman, the first name, obviously. So I thought that was kind of cool, Eddie, a good way to kind of introduce it and do it for him.
Oh yeah, his mind was probably blown away from that too, and that was really cool. I'm not a big All-Star Game fan or whatever. I think the whole league should just do away with it. In my opinion, that's it. But it was cool seeing a moment like that. Yeah, that was just awesome. He was named after that legendary quarterback, so that's pretty cool to see, and he was pretty happy about it. So he's probably fired up to have a good All-Star game just in front of the football player that he was named after.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think he said it was his dad would cry when he watched the video. So very, very cool. Good to see him. And I'm with you. All-Star game, yeah, whatever. But I'm always happy when the Ducks could get in there. But, yeah, now, outside of the core, there's other things that the Ducks can do, right? Like, how are they going to try to keep this team going and get better? A couple things that came up recently. One was Jacob Verana. He was sent down on waivers. A lot of people were, talking about him and picking him up, and what should they do? Should they get this guy? He scored goals. He had 24 in 2018, 25 in 2019. 2020 he had 19 goals, and last season he had 13. This year he's only played in a couple games. He's got 1 goal. He had to, we don't know the exact reason, but he had to use the NHL Player Assistance Program. So, there was a lot of chatter about him. I wasn't really that big on the Ducks trying to get him, to be honest. His contract's $5.25 million until 23-24 season, which not a big deal. The Ducks have space. Eddie and I have talked about that a lot. They have plenty of options to do that. my thing is more of this player assistance thing. Like, we don't really. I mean, I don't know what it is. I can only assume. I mean, we have an idea, like most players that go into this. You know, it ends up being sadly some kind of substance type thing. I don't know if that's the case here. You know, I mean, we've seen other things too, gambling and other stuff. But I don't know what that is. But if he's not recovered and whatnot, then, you know, I don't know. And the fact that he came back and they sent him on waivers, like, is it just a move to get cap space, or is he not? Really, truly 100% ready to go. So to me, it would be a no because there's just too many variables involved with him, Eddie.
Yeah. And you made a good point too. It's they put him on waivers, so like, what's going on? Is he really healthy? I really hope he got the help that he needed. These players' assistant programs usually mean it's drugs or alcohol. So hopefully he's in a better place than he was. It's just kind of weird that they did that. They didn't really give him that chance, and just like right away. So it kind of makes me think that there's something else going on too. I'm not trying to really speculate, but I guess we have to wait and see. Regardless, I wish him all the best, and I wish whatever issues he was going through, because we all have issues in life. Like, no one's perfect, unless you're my dog, because she thinks she's perfect sometimes. But yeah, I really hope, like, whatever issues he's going through, he gets through it and he can come back and have a successful hockey career.
Yeah, absolutely. Regardless of what team, you know, he ends up on, hopefully he gets that all worked out for sure. Another thing that came too is there was some chatter about maybe the Ducks trying to keep Shattenkirk, which I don't know. I was kind of surprised about that. I saw that thrown out there. Some people talking about it. I don't know. I mean, we've talked about making trades and stuff. We can kind of talk about that now too, because we had people ask about, you know, who would we like to see the Ducks get at the trade deadline. That was Tim Coffin talked about that. And Eddie and I have talked about defense before, trying to improve it if the Ducks are going to make moves. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they would really try to resign Shattenkirk. I would think that would be another player that maybe they try to trade. We've already talked about Klingberg. He's been the big one. Everybody knows about that. So I don't know. I would really see if they trade Klingberg and what's the return on that. If that's another defenseman, then I don't know if the Ducks would try to re-sign Shattenkirk. You know, I don't know. It just seems kind of strange to me. I mean, Shattenkirk's been kind of inconsistent with the team. He's not played terrible, you know, but he's just been inconsistent here and there. He's done a little bit better as of late, but I just don't know if that's really the direction that they want to go in. I think the biggest thing with this team is the blue line. They've got to figure out, you know, what they want to do. You mentioned Drysdale. Obviously, him being out hurts as well. And then trying to figure it out with him back in the mix. Are you going to get somebody temporarily? How many defensemen are you going to trade away? To me, that's the big key to this whole thing. Is I really think the blue line, you know, they've got to figure out Verbeek and obviously Dallas Eakins for now. They've got to figure out, hey, who are going to be the guys that are going to be the core next season? I don't know if Shattenkirk's one of those guys.
Yeah, so what's the whole plan next season though? Like, are you planning to just to not be competitive and just kind of roll with the rebuild? Like, how long is this whole rebuild going to take? If you do get that first overall pick, it's not going to change anything. Like I said, it's not going to change this whole team to be an instant playoff team. It's not going to be a Connor McDavid where this kid's going to score 100 points in his first season. So like, don't get your hopes up and do that. Which Connor McDavid didn't. He got hurt his first season, but. It's kind of weird to them re-signing him. I guess maybe as a bottom six role, under $1.5 million, he'd be valuable then. But to try to re-sign him to a big contract, it's going to set the Ducks fan base off. Like, he hasn't really done much, and it might be the whole system. I think he has some trade value. Come trade deadline, he's going to get some phone calls, and teams can utilize him because he can provide some kind of offensive spark on a different system, on a more competitive team. But I just can't see why the Ducks are going to re-sign him unless he does brings that locker room presence that's helping kind of mold this team together. And I can see that, but it has to be at the right price and not, you know, don't be signing him to 5 years at $6 million, $5 million, $4 million. It's just going to be too much, and you're going to piss the fan base off even more.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I would think you would try to trade him by the trade deadline, and then maybe if you don't, you let him walk, or maybe you re-sign him for less. But a couple other players too that we were talking about was Stolars, Henrique are some names that have come up. We had a guy, Boaz Bellini. He asked about trading Gibson, what we thought about that. I'm more on the side of Stolars. You and I have talked about it. I think getting him in there playing more games, it would be beneficial. Gibson, I'm not opposed to trading him, but I don't know that his value is what it would have been prior to last season. So that's the issue I have with Gibson's value right now. I just don't see it as high as what it would be. I mean, it's not an unreasonable amount. I mean, $6.4 million till the 26-27 season. I think the Ducks could still get a high draft pick and a couple players for him, but I think if they would have traded Gibson prior to his big slump last year, I think the value would have definitely been higher. I think they could have gotten like 2 high-round draft picks and a bunch of other stuff. So I don't think the value is as high there. But to me, I think they have to do something. I'd like to see Dostal up with the Ducks, especially next season. And Stolars being a UFA too. That's a guy, I mean, his deal is just under $1 million. That's a guy you can easily move and do that. So that's kind of where I am on the goalie situation. I don't know what you feel about Gibson as well as Stolars, Eddie.
I agree with you. If they're going to trade Gibson, it should have been last season or season before that. His trade value goes down because the crappy product in front of him, and his numbers aren't reflecting that elite goalie that he could be, that he is, because how bad this Anaheim team is. So teams are going to see that. I mean, maybe at the deadline you can get a team to overpay that really need that goaltending push that can. I guess they can feel that he can play his elite level on a better team, but you're not going to get the big quality that you can get from him. So I guess just hold on to him. You can't really do anything right now, and why would you? Like, if he's this goalie of the future, and we've seen his potential and what he can do, once his team gets back on the right track, he can get back to form and be that all-star that we had. But it's hard for him to do that when he's playing in front of a shitty ass team. Like, just be honest, this team has been dirt crap. I mean, we're barely a few points above Chicago for being second to the last in the league, which I'm not complaining about that because I want the first overall pick. But I mean, I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's why, like, when Tim asked us about what the Ducks should get at the trade deadline, for me, the big thing that I talk about is defense. Trying to get that defense going. And picking up someone, if because his question is about improving the team long term. If that's what they want to do, if you're going to keep Gibson and you want to keep going, well, they got to improve the defense. I mean, the defense has just been a mess, and we talked about Alec Martinez was one guy in Vegas. We didn't know if he'd be available, but he was there. We talked about Montreal before. They've got some guys, Joel Edmondson, David Savard, that could be options on there. Talked about more defensive type, stay-at-home defensemen like Ekblad or McAvoy, Parenko, Pietrangelo. I mean, these are guys that obviously they may not be available, but I'm just throwing out these names here because if that's what we're going to do, if we're going to really get this team going towards the end of the season, that's what you got to look at. Even we had Uyghur that was in there before it was a name connected with the Ducks that was mentioned. So if that's what they want to do long term and get them going, then hey, there you go. If we're just gonna hang out and just kind of do whatever the rest of the season and hope to get Bedard, that's great too. But I mean, that's not a given, right? It's a percentage game. Yeah, we end up last. We have the highest percentage chance to get the first pick, and the Ducks would likely pick him, but. I don't know. For me, if the Ducks are going in the direction of trading Klingberg, I'd like to see them get a quality defenseman back, and they could. I mean, Klingberg's contract is $7 million. They could pick up another defenseman, even if his contract's $3 or $5 million. That's not going to kill the team to help build. Because I mean, you look at the Ducks blue line right now. You've got Drysdale, Fowler, Shattenkirk. Right, Klingberg, Kulikov, Vakanainen. I mean, those are kind of the guys you're looking at. I don't know that you obviously take out Klingberg. I don't know if Kulikov, he's going to be a UFA at the end of the season. Doubt he comes back. I don't know about Shattenkirk. So, I mean, you got Fowler and Vakanainen. I mean, what are you going to do next season with your defense? Your defense is going to be Swiss cheese again, and it's not going to matter who's in net. So, for me, I think that they need to try to get at least one person. I mean, because you get Drysdale back, you still need a person to round out that top four and get the team going. And you've got plenty of cap space to do it. They talked about the Ducks being a broker for teams and a three-way trade for teams. I wouldn't rule those out coming up the trade deadline as well.
Yeah, it's just going to be really hard, too, because a lot of these teams that are going to be buyers and not sellers, they're not going to want to give up their assets. They're good defensemen. Martinez is like, I think he leads, or he's top of the league in block shots. You're not going to want to lose a guy like that. Edmonton and Montreal, they're going to be sellers too, trying to get as much value as they can for their players to contending teams. So it's going to be hard for the Ducks to make trades. Girard too would be a good one. Colorado's going to be a playoff team. Would Byram still hurt? That's going to be a little X factor for him. If Byram came back and he starts playing to form, and he can kind of outplay Girard, then that's something like a possibility that Ducks can do with him. Because Colorado still wants that center. I still think Adam Henrique would be a great fit on their second line for Colorado, but it's just there's a lot of hurdles you have to do. Ducks aren't really going to be buyers at the trade deadline. They're going to be sellers. They're going to try to get the most assets they can. I think if Ducks want to improve, and I think if you want to see that huge improvement, it's going to come at the trade deadline at the draft or the offseason. I just can't see the Ducks making a significant, huge change to improve their team come the trade deadline besides getting draft picks and prospects.
Yeah, and that's another route to go. You brought up Henrique. His name's been thrown around. I mean, that's a guy that I'd hate to see him go because he seems to fit in really well, especially in the top six right now. But that's another player that you could put out there if you were trying to do that, or you want to get more assets and prospects, you can try to go that route as well. You brought the free agency, which is what Corey Todd asked us. If we expect big things in free agency, I'm with you. I don't know that the Ducks will get anything big this trade deadline. I mean, obviously last trade deadline was crazy because they moved Raquel and Lindholm and Manson and Delorier and did all this stuff and went nuts. I think there's going to be some moves to be made. I don't think it's going to be as crazy for the Ducks. I think that they may be the middleman on some of these trades, or they may take on a contract to get some assets or whatnot, and we might see some of that going on. But it's going to be interesting for this team. I think they're going to just be the one that might be the team that helps out, because a lot of teams are up against the cap. That's a big issue. If you look on Cap Friendly, look at the teams, they don't have a lot of wiggle room. And like Eddie makes a good point, I throw out these names of defensemen. And you're probably looking at them and going, oh, they're not going to, send this guy away because of X, Y, and Z. Like either they got players hurt and these guys are playing, or these are their top two or top four. And Eddie's right. I just throwing those names out there because that was the question. I mean, I feel like the Ducks need to try and do that. I don't know if they'll be able to do that in the trade deadline. It might be something like Corey Todd's talking about. It might be the free agency where they're going to have to go out there and try and pull some of these guys. Or like Eddie said, maybe at the draft. Ducks stockpile more draft picks at the trade deadline. Then when the draft comes, maybe they make a move there and make a trade and unload some of the draft picks for a certain player that they want. That's another strategy. I think it's very interesting. It's still exciting to watch. I mean, the Ducks are going to do stuff. We know that there's not going to be bargain, Bob, bin, freaking crap. So we know there's going to be things going on. But I think you make a good point, Eddie. I could see the Ducks doing more stuff once the season is over than actually at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think the main thing for the Ducks come trade deadline is getting the most assets they can, so they can just keep stockpiling and rebuilding. It doesn't make any sense to try to get some assets that are going to improve their team to get a few more wins, to just climb up in the standings and get like a 5th overall, 6th overall. It just makes zero sense. And the players that mentioned, a lot of these teams that are playoff contenders are going to want to be buyers and not sellers and give out their assets. And the players that are mentioned too of teams that aren't going to make the playoffs, they want to be sellers and they want to get the best possible return and have teams overpay. So I think the best bet, like Corey talked about big things in the free agency. I can see free agency being really hot for the Ducks. I can see the draft being hot for the Ducks, and that's it. But we have to really figure out what the Ducks are trying to do. I think the first thing before the draft and before you make these big changes is find out your coaching staff. You can't build a team around a coach you're going to fire or let go, or you're going to rehire someone else. You have to just have that coach and have that kind of unity and kind of teamwork mentality on how you want to build this team. The GM, he makes the big decisions. He's the main boss. I guess he's the god of the organization that's going to determine who comes in and who isn't. But the coach should have some play and on his style, who's going to fit it the best, and which players are going to be able to contribute to the future.
That's a good point, too. Maybe they don't do as much as the trade deadline if he's planning to keep Aikens till the end of the season. That could be a factor, too, something to consider. So the other part is the players coming up, and kind of going to our last segment here, kind of talking about like hockey news and league news and stuff like that. We had the Ducks prospects win the World Junior Championship. And some of the upcoming stars, had Nathan Gaucher, Tyson Hines, and then Olin Zellweger earned gold. For those of you rooting for Team USA, they came in third. But we've got some of these of the guys that are coming up. If Zellweger can come up next year and help out in the defense, that would solve some of the problems too. I don't know if that's going to be a for sure thing or not, but that'd be great to see. You got him up there. You get Drysdale in there. It'd be great if the Ducks do pick up Bernard and throw him in the forward lineup. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that could happen. So the Ducks do have a lot of guys coming up in the system that can help out as well. So that's another reason too that maybe they don't go crazy at the trade deadline, like Eddie's talked about. Maybe they do stockpile more assets. They get to the summer, they get a new coach, and they start making some big moves and picking up some certain people that they want in the summertime. And then if some of these young guys coming up who have been playing phenomenal are ready, then you put them in the mix, and then you just see what happens next season.
Definitely. You know what? It still bothers me too that this rule has to change. If you're eligible to, or if you're too good to play in juniors, you should be able to play in the AHL. Just like, I guess the best thing about COVID, the whole COVID crap, was these players that should have went to juniors, which got canceled, had to play in the AHL. Look at the whole development for Drysdale and players like that significantly improved their game and developed better because they were too good to go to juniors, but they weren't eligible to go to the AHL. The hockey league should really look at this. I know they have some standing with the junior teams and stuff like that, but it should be for the best development of the players to have the best players in the world play in the NHL. And I think something has to change with that if you really want to develop these players, because I really think that some of these players could have been really good superstar or even top 6 players, but they kind of hindered themselves because they had to be sent down to the juniors when they're too good, and they brought them back to the AHL when they're eligible. But it's okay, they got used to all the easy tendencies and how easy it was in the junior league, and come to AHL, in the professional league, they didn't really perform that well, and then boom, you just wasted a prospect on nothing. So I really want to see something change in the near future with the National Hockey League. If you want to have the best players in the world play for your league, change the rules and have them be able to, if have an exceptional status to play in the AHL, let them do that. It's just going to pay dividends for their whole development.
Yeah, it drives me nuts too. I don't like how they get forced, because of a certain age and the other rules and whatnot, that they can't necessarily play in the AHL. I'm with you. I think it creates a problem. They should be able to. They got to work that out with the Canadian juniors to try and figure that out to make it much better for sure. So, but yeah, the Ducks, they've got some guys in the pipeline, so that's another solution to the problem. We'll see how much, especially next season. A couple other things happen around the league to talk about as we wind down the show here. We had Ovechkin we talked about. He now passed Gordie Howe, Eddie, so he's trying to, get up to Gretzky, and maybe he can get some more empty net goals, just get some more to piss off some people.
Oh, yeah. I heard on other podcasts, too, I listened to, I think Bucci Gross, I was listening to. He can't get the number 1 goal-scoring title on an empty net. So I hope that when he gets to that point, which I really think he's going to pass Gretzky, I think when he becomes the greatest goal scorer ever in National Hockey, it can't not be an empty net goal. I know Gretzky has the most empty net goals and points in the league, but you're going to break that record. It has to be special. You have to beat a goalie. You can't get it on an empty net. I know he got to pass Gordie Howe, he got an empty net goal. So his next feat, he had to beat the goalie. I don't care if he had to just suck it up and not do it. Like, what's that movie with Bernie Mac, Mr. 3000? Like, he does that. You have to sacrifice that empty net goal. You have to beat a goalie. And Ovechkin's not slowing down. He's, I think, number 3 or 4 in the league with 28 goals last time I checked. So he's still fired up. He has a few more years in the league. I think he's going to retire once he gets that record, and he'll spend his last year at the KHL, which he says he wants to do, to play his final season. So I'm really rooting for him, but I really hope it's not an empty net goal. And the whole thing is, I wonder who's going to score, which goalie or which team is going to score that breaking goal with. I kind of hope it's the Ducks at the Ducks home game so I can be there and watch it. I think everyone's going to be there to try to watch that record too.
Oh yeah, and I'm with you. No empty net goal, please. I don't want any of that nonsense. You know, like I want him to score like a legit goal. You know, for sure. What else?
Well, speaking of the Capitals too, Mike, Devontae Smith-Pelly, who won the Stanley Cup with the Capitals, he announced his retirement at the age of 30. He was a one-time Ducks player, property. Devo, he wants to just pursue other things. So I wish him the best of luck and good luck on your future and whatever you're doing.
Yeah, that's right. Devo did retire. I saw that. Yeah, I remember some of those great goals he had in some of those playoff games. Yeah, I wish him the best as well, Eddie. What else is going on in the league? I know there's a couple other things you want to talk about.
Well, speaking of outdoor games, the Edmonton Oilers will host the Calgary Flames in the 2023 Heritage Classic, so that's another outdoor game. That's something else I do want to take part of, to go over there in Canada and watch an outdoor game. I think that would be kind of fun to do. Speaking of Canada too, Mike, Team Canada won the gold and everything that we talked about. Connor Bedard set the new record for the most points with his 20th point. He broke the record on his 20th point. He has more points, obviously, now. But yeah, he's a special player. And then when they asked him about himself, or asked him about like what he wants and everything, his whole quote was like he doesn't really care about himself. He said, "quote I don't want to talk about myself right now. We're not talking about me. We just won the biggest tournament in the world, and man, I love this team, this country." What an answer! What a class act kid. He's just his maturity level and just him being so humble and unselfish and only caring about a team first mentality. That's the kind of player that any team's gonna want on their team.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved it when he gave that quote. You know, fantastic, man. Unselfish. You know, team player. Could easily have been like, oh yeah, you know, I did X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, nope, I don't really want to talk about it. You know, we as a team won this award. So fantastic, Eddie.
Oh yeah, well, he's not an NBA player. It's all you hear. NBA is I. Piece of shit. It's like, I'm sorry. If you guys follow the NBA, I watch basketball a lot with my roommate, my best friend. He's a big basketball fan. And all their interviews is I. It's so pathetic. Those guys are losers. LeBron James. Oh my god, I think he's a definition of bitch if you look in the dictionary. I'm sorry if you guys follow LeBron James, but that guy's he's a joke. Moving on. Speaking of other things, of Canada, the Toronto Maple Leafs got fined $100,000 for violating a CBA agreement by traveling a day early on December 26th to St. Louis. I guess they were trying to beat the storm or something. But yeah, they got that fine at $100,000. They also got head coach Sheldon Keefe got fined an additional $25,000 for I guess deeming conduct towards officials during a game on the 27th against St. Louis. So it's a pretty expensive trip for them. $125,000 for them. That's pretty good money. We could buy a lot of $18 beers at Honda Center with that amount of money.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the weather thing's been crazy though. I mean, I kind of don't blame them. I mean, even like when we were planning our trip to the Winter Classic for Boston, you know, they got hit with the big storm that week before. We were like, man, are we even gonna be able to go? You know, so I mean, we were lucky. It just rained a little bit when we were there, and it wasn't crazy. But with all these airlines and trying to fly around all this, so for, like, I don't know. I think the league could have, like, come on, this is a big weather thing. They had to try to fly it this time so they didn't get stuck. Like, I don't know. I would have tried to give them a break, Eddie.
Yeah. Well, I guess the last of league news too. Like Vancouver is struggling. They have they're going to trade their captain. They're going to trade Besser. They have the whole shit show in Vancouver. a news story is reporting a few stories of JT Miller. I guess he had some issues going on with his goalie Spencer Martin. He brought the puck back into their zone. Hey, he told him to get the fuck off the ice, pounding on his stick, like hitting him, like get off. During the interview, he was like, whatever, emotions weren't high, wasn't apologetic about it. Another report came out that a few of his teammates, quote unquote, say he's a prick in the locker room. And then another report that came out saying that he just, only reason why he signed in Vancouver because he couldn't get the money anywhere else, and he was hoping teams would trade for him and he'd get out of there, but they just didn't. It seems like this guy is an issue. Yeah, you hear one story, okay, whatever, the media, two stories, but now this is the fourth different story you're hearing, and there's video of his interviews, there's video of his conduct toward his teammates. It seems like he's a real cancer in the locker room. It's just like something like the teams are going to shy away from. So if you want your trade value to go up and you want to get out of Vancouver and be on a different team, it's not the kind of behavior you want. You're just not being a good teammate. So I guess that's his own issue.
Yeah, like I'm just glad it's not the Ducks, man. Like we we've got all the stuff we talk about. We banter about the coaching situation and the lineups and the goalie stuff and trying to figure stuff out. But at least we don't have those kind of issues. But I did want to end the show with a good question. We had. I don't know how to pronounce. It's Instagram GAUTHAMAP 46 had a good question. What is your favorite memory about the Anaheim Ducks?
Mine would be my first game in '95. That's how I became a Ducks fan. My dad actually back in the day he went to Ticketmaster. For those young listeners, a Ticketmaster actually had like stationary things where you can go and buy tickets, hard tickets. He actually went to go buy me Kings tickets because that's the only team he knew about, and the Kings were not playing that day or they were on the road. But the Ducks had a home game that day, and I just started playing hockey too when I was younger. And my dad wanted to take me to my first professional game, and the guy at Ticketmaster is like, well, the Ducks play over here, blah, blah, blah. So my dad bought tickets to the game, went to the game, and I just fell in love with hockey that first game I went to. Just the atmosphere, the fans, the Ducks. So just, I mean, there's a lot of other memories, and we'll probably talk about it on different shows and more shows. We'll probably end segments like this. I think a good way to end the show is talk about our favorite memories from Anaheim. But that's my all-time favorite memory is my very first game with my dad, because that's he's the reason why I became a Ducks fan. He forced me to play. I hated it, and then now I love the game. I love watching hockey. I love talking about hockey. I love playing hockey, and I don't know where my life would have been without this sport and the friends and the people I've made, the experiences. But I'm so grateful to be part of this game, and every experience and every one of my great memories have came from hockey, and it's all because of that first game in '95 when I fell in love with the sport.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, I think I've told this one before. My mom, God rest her soul, she bought tickets to the very, very first game, when the Ducks lost to Detroit. But, that was my first, time going and just falling in love with it. And then, we had, a mini plan, and then got season tickets, and kind of just started from there. I don't know. I just remember going with my parents and just really being excited. And then it was like a family thing. We would go to the games. We'd listen to the post-game show on the way home, and it was just a lot of fun wearing our Mighty Ducks stuff, and that was just kind of our thing for a long time. And then, of course, when I was there when they won the Stanley Cup in person, I went to all those playoff games. So I mean, that entire run was great. Of course, the last game being there and seeing it when they won is obviously up there, if not the moment. But like you, that my mom buying those tickets is what started this whole thing. And really, if you go back and think about it, I mean, it wouldn't we wouldn't have been friends, wouldn't have done any of this stuff, wouldn't have been a big hockey fan like I talked about back then. I watched hockey and I liked Lemieux and Yager and watched the Penguins, but of course they weren't here. We had the Kings, and I didn't like the Kings, so there wasn't a big hockey influence in the 80s in the Orange County area. There really wasn't. It wasn't until 93 when the Ducks came around that there was anything. So that really got me going even more. into it, and really led to, like you talked about, Eddie, a lot of great friendships, a lot of great memories. I've met a lot of great people. The majority of everything has been overly, positive and fun stuff, and I just love it. I love meeting people and talking about hockey. Even, when I was in Boston, I was talking to Pittsburgh fans, and I was talking to Boston Bruin fans, and just talking about hockey, and it's cool when you can meet people from, you just never know where. I even told that story about Universal Studios and going on that tour with that group, and there were people from Europe that were hockey fans. It's fantastic. So, yeah, obviously winning the cup's always going to be up there, but the thing that started this all was my mom buying those tickets to the first game and getting I want to say it was like a 10-game mini plan for the first season, which started it all, man. And just God rest her soul, that just got it all going.
Yeah, definitely. And you made a good point too. Just like I met you from this sport, and you met me from this sport. I met so many other people. I don't even have time to name how many people and experiences. People I even forgot about. People I met in Colorado. Just people I meet at random bars that are watching the games or have some kind of hockey thing on them. I just go and gravitate toward it and talk to them. I always mention it. Like it's kind of comparable to me to the military. Like when I see or I know someone's in the military, we just kind of just have that instant gratification of, you're my brother, you're my sister. Like no matter what, I don't know you, I just met you, but we still served. And I feel the same way with hockey. It's just like, okay, you're a hockey fan, I'm a hockey fan too. There's so few of us, and we always have the same things in common. I mentioned a story months ago how I met some dude at the bar, just chilling. I'm about to go with myself, have a couple drinks, just kind of wind down, and some guy's just sitting there talking about me. He saw my Ducks thing, and, oh, you're a hockey fan. And coincidentally, he was an Avalanche fan, and he knew a lot about hockey. And lo and behold, he lives actually across the street from me. I didn't even know that. So it's just some of those things. Hockey's a really small community. It's just always a good group of people when you meet. So I'm really grateful for that, Mike. I'm grateful for meeting you. Like you're like my brother. And you're my best friend, my brother, and I love you, man. And just, I can't not think of not knowing you, but I'm just glad this sport kind of brought us together, and the Ducks did. So.
Yeah, Eddie, I feel the same way. I feel like you being my brother too. I have a half brother, but we're older in age, so I don't see him as much. So same thing. I feel like you're my brother and have a connection with the sport. So appreciate it as well. So with that, I'll end up wrapping up the show. Just remember to check out Old City Sports Network. Check out the comments. We have all our different sponsors in there, especially our Fanatics one, which is really good. It's also our pinned tweet on Twitter. You can go check that out as well. And we'll be back probably in another week or so. And let's go Ducks.